All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. The special budget workshop, Lander County Commission meeting, Town Board of Battle Mountain and Austin Board of County Highway Commissions, May 19th, 2020. Also being held via audio conference by GoToMeeting. So the meeting's gonna be called to order. Art, do you wanna do the pledge of allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll have a moment of silence. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. The Lander County Commission may break for lunch from 12 p.m. to 1:15 p.m. Any agenda item may be taken out of order, may be combined for consideration by the public body, and items may be pulled or removed from the agenda at any time. For public comment for non-agendized items only, persons are invited to submit comments in writing and/or attend and make comments on any non-agendized item at the board meeting, if any, and discussion of those comments at the discretion of the board. All public comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person, again, at the discretion of the board. Reasonable restrictions may be placed on the public comment based upon time, place, and manner, but public comment based upon viewpoint may not be restricted. So, are we ready to, is there any public comment? Sorry. All right, so do we have any public comment, Liz? All right,
Unmuted.
all right, so starting with grant requests, number 1, for possible action regarding submitted grant request for general fund grant request, Town of Kingston Solar Station for the mailbox is $6,878.
No, I make a motion.
Just a minute, before you do that, I'd like to make a comment on this, because we actually had approved that, and then found out it wasn't on the agenda, so we pulled it back to put it on this one to do it properly and correct. And I did talk with Shannon, and Shannon said with the Nevada Energy Light that they have put up since they requested this, she has not had any complaints. And so with the COVID-19 and with everything going on with the loss of revenue and where we're gonna be, she said she'd just as soon have us pull that. And,
very good. That
and
makes
she
it
didn't
easy.
think that they needed it. And I
Okay.
wondered, Shannon, are you on by any chance, and do you have any comments on that? She's not on? Okay, so thank you, Art, but I don't think we
Okay.
need to do that,
Very
but
good.
thank you all very much.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to number 2 for the CCP fund. For possible action regarding the CCP fund 055, the Battle Mountain Fire Station rollover. B, Austin Fire Station rollover. C, the Civic Center rollover. D, the sports complex rollover of $100,000. Now, going back, do I need to, I'm sorry, should I have read that $100,000 on each one of them?
You probably should.
Okay, so I'm gonna do that again, I'm sorry. So, for the Battle Mountain Fire Station rollover of $100,000, the Austin Fire Station rollover of $100,000, the Civic Center rollover of $100,000, and the sports complex of $100,000.
Kathy?
Yes.
So, do we know how much we've already spent on sports complex?
Sports complex is about 90,000 that we spent so far on, preparation. We look over the groundwork to see what we need to make sure the corner ledge rooms put in place. And then the drawings he presented to you, so that's why I'm asking, if you want the sports complex to go forward, that's why I'm asking for more money. The, budget meeting,
I can't hear Keith.
Sorry, I forgot to turn my thing on, so what, AM Engineering has done so far is about $90,000 worth of work. which included, making sure all the corner markers where they were supposed to be, the design of the several different designs of the building that were put forth at a previous meeting, and then the work that he's put into it. So it's really out of money right now, and that's why I'm looking to see of another 100,000, because at that meeting, I was directed to have a public meeting, which of course we haven't had a chance to have yet. So that's about the sports complex.
Okay, so this is not the rollover. We've spent the 100,000 before, and so this is new, and that's why it doesn't say rollover.
That's correct, yes.
Got it.
So the fire stations in Battle Mountain and Austin and the Civic Center have had no work, or the Civic Center we might have done a little work on, or he's done a little work on.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to.
Hold on, Keith,
Yes,
on that sports complex for $100,000,
yes.
if we decide to do something in the way of improving our existing fields, that money could be used towards that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you guys, if the commission decides that, you know what, we'd rather just put the money into existing fields and not look at a sports complex or not take any further action, absolutely that money can be rolled over or moved, a line item transferred to repair or upgrading current poles.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I'll make a motion that we approve Battle Mountain Fire Station rollover in 100,000, the Austin Fire Station rollover in 100,000.
So with no do we have any seconds on that? All right, so I guess that motion dies. Do we have,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to fund these items as presented. Battle Mountain Fire Station rollover 100,000, Austin Fire Station rollover 100,000, Civic Center rollover 100,000, and the sports complex rollover, or the sport complex 100,000, with the understanding that if needs arise, this money can be used on existing facilities.
I'll second the motion.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Do we have,
Aye.
Brian votes aye.
okay, public comment? Okay, so, all right. So, is there any public comment? None? All right.
Muted. Unmuted.
All right, so, for commissioners, for possible action, there is an increase to operations by 40,000 to have an enterprise risk assessment done within the administration department. So this is mine that I asked to be on here, and it's just this is a risk assessment. And basically what this is the company comes in here and does an audit, and it's not a financial audit. It's they come in and see how the structure of departments are. And they can come in individually to one department, they can come into the whole county and do it. And it's just kind of to make sure that everything is transparent, that everything we're doing is the way it should be at this day and age. And my putting this on there is just from working within the county, seeing how things have been done over the years and then how things have changed. And so I wanted to have this looked at and see what everybody else thought, to see, it never hurts to have another pair of eyes come in and just make sure that we're doing everything transparent for the county. This is not personally a personal dig against anybody. This isn't anything like that. It's just to have it came in and have things looked at within a department. And that's pretty much what this is for. So,
Kathy, I'd like to make a motion.
well, he has comments. He has some comments.
The first comment is, I want to know what specific problems there are that we need to address that haven't been addressed.
Okay. I have those, my concerns, okay, and they're concerns and they're not, so we'll,
Okay, Kathy,
go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make my comment on it then, because I did,
I didn't get my answer yet.
no,
Yeah,
I
you'll
know,
get
but
it. I'll
I'm
give it to
trying
you.
to
I'll give
address
it to you.
that too, Art, I really
I'll
am.
give it to you.
Because I read over the report that was done for the other county and spent a lot of time on it. And the bottom line is when they finished, they actually put every department and said if it's a high risk, a moderate risk, a low risk, so forth and so on. And I'm going, if all 5 of our commissioners filled out a survey, I bet we could come up with the same thing with where we think the risks are and not spend the 40,000. I think you may have a good idea at some point, but especially with the way everything's going right now and things are not open, we're not fully staffed, and it's such a mess, we don't know what's gonna happen this year. I would like to see us even think about postponing it at least for another year till we get back on track and see what's going on. That's just my opinion, and go ahead with the others, but I do think they're, actually Douglas County was directed to do that, weren't they?
Yes. Yeah, and I didn't realize that when I was looking through this different stuff and doing my research, when I saw this, thankfully, Keith had discovered that. I didn't realize that it was, when I found
Okay.
this firm, I didn't realize that it was done, it was actual requirement. Go ahead, yeah, go, absolutely.
So I talked to Douglas County as well as, Pool Pact about this to get some insight into it. So this was the result of a grand jury investigation, in Douglas County, or a grand jury, I guess, indictment or investigation. Anyway, they had to do this because they were getting theft out of their public works department in Douglas County in the amount of my understanding, close to $500,000. And an employee was stealing things out of the public works department and then taking them out and selling them on the side, and it had been going on for years. So that's why this was done. I don't know why Carson did it, but Carson did one as well. Same county manager, he'd gone from Douglas to Carson, and so maybe he just liked it, or.
Yeah,
but-
and that's
but,
when
yeah.
I saw, and I know Carson had done it, but I didn't know that, like I said, I didn't know there was a grand jury, had no idea. I just had liked, when I would pull the research, of course, they don't say in here, this was a grand jury investigation. I just liked the way that it had done, gone through the departments and see the high risks and things like that. And so, it caught my eye and thought, it never hurts to have a third eye, look at stuff, make sure that, we're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing, but it wasn't,
Pool Pack does this. Pool Pack does it for a whole lot less than $40,000.
well, and I put it on here to throw it out just for this reason, so we could have this discussion. So Judy,
I am not hearing and I am not seeing anything that equates to some kind of an investigation into this county that in other counties was driven by a grand jury.
it wasn't an investigation, Art. It wasn't, that's not how it was driven. It
Well,
wasn't done
it
that
is,
way.
I
Well,
don't
and
care
can
what
look,
you
that's your-
think, it is an investigation into the county.
It's an audit, no different than when you have our books audited, when they come in and they audit our books, and bless you. I don't look at it any different than that, and I respect your opinion, you can look at it that way. I didn't look at it as an investigation.
Keith,
I have a comment when everybody's done.
Okay,
Keith, what do you think about this?
Well, I've had this discussion with Kathy, and initially, and I took it as a poke at me and my department, because it's specifically the administration department. So, looking into it more, I mean, I still feel that way, but it's a commission decision. I don't have anything to hide. I mean, I'm not worried about anything. I just, like I
Liz, do
said,
you
I
have
feel
any
it's a poke.
comment? You have any comment on this?
I do not.
Okay. Well, I like Patsy's idea.
Yeah, and that, Brian?
Yeah, I have a comment. It's an assessment that we're doing in our department administratively. So from my understanding, it's going to be the administrative department, the working relations with the commissioners, with the administrative department. So if there's something we're doing as commissioners that's not right, that's going to come up in the assessment as well. I come from the stand that I agree with Art. I don't necessarily see anything, but what if we are and there is a risk? then I'd like to hear about it so that we can correct it. And then also agreeing with Keith that he has nothing to hide, we have nothing to hide. I'm fine with it. I just like to know that we're operating standardly.
I don't like that a commissioner picked the person that's gonna do this. I just don't like that. I think that Pool Pack do this for free as part of our fees.
So Pool Pact will do it, but, when I spoke with Pool Pact, it would not, and I just have to be fair across the board, it would not be as in-depth as this. But they come in and do it every year. They evaluate our HR, or, do an audit, I believe it's every 3 years. They come in and do an audit on our HR. They come in and will do this type of stuff. We have our money auditors every year. And they're willing to do something like this, but like I said, in all fairness, it would not be anywhere near as in-depth, but there wouldn't be any charge either.
Are there any other public elected officials that want this? Have them,
Oh, that's,
have somebody come into their office? I mean, I think this takes away from the whole public elected official being in charge of their agency.
well, two things I need to clarify, and I will get to your question, I just don't wanna forget. Pool Pack does come in every year and they do an assessment of the county function. And then part two of, or your second question, Art, was once again, what was it? Your second question, about Pool Pact, and then you asked,
Will they do it for free?
oh,
As
yeah,
part
there's,
of-
yes,
As part of our fees. I mean, we pay
Yes.
a lot of money.
yeah, they do, there is no cost when they come in to do it, True, yes.
And if they wanna put it out to bid and have other companies look at it, I'm not against that by any means. I just come across this company, it was, and if, like I said, I'm not specific to this company, I just liked the report, the way it was done. But by all means, if the commission thinks that they want to look at someone else, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to say, you're discussing the entire county and elected officials, and it's agendized, and that was part of the poke I felt. It's addressed as the administration department only. It doesn't, you didn't include the whole county in it, so, I should make
Well,
that.
and then we can do this if everybody wants to look at it, if we wanna throw it out to the entire county and let all the elected officials put their feedback in it, I don't have a problem with that either. I mean, I'm open to that. The only reason, and I know it looked like that I was trying to poke just directly at this office, but I also didn't want to poke it directly in to everybody else's office either. So I thought, this is our office, we work out of. So, I'm a part of this office, and so I said this office. So if it wants to be brought back in front of, and let everybody look at the reports and see it, if it's something the entire county, wants to look at, then more power to them. This is our office, I work within this office, so this is why I did this office. So if it wants to be brought back, that's in.
Are you gonna give me the list of things that you have noticed that caused you to be so concerned?
Yeah, I can, and the only
Okay.
reason I can do that, and I just, all right, so some of the things that I looked at was, all right. One of my big issues is, with the agenda. For years and years and years, the agenda was done up at the clerk's office. And this is not anything one person has done, and I wanna make sure that that's said, that this is not something you've done, okay? This is a collaboration of changes that have been made. So I'm not poking at you, this is a collaboration of just different things that have happened over the years, okay? So, over the years that it was done up there, and she's the ex officio. So I asked questions, as soon as I came in and saw that it was done differently, I started asking questions right away. Didn't understand, why is it not done up there anymore, and it's done down here? So the answer I was given was that you were also the ex officio, and you have just as much authority as the clerk. So I did some research and asked that to find out if, because that's what I do, is I do research. So I called in different counties to ask different things, and was told, now, this doesn't mean I'm 100% right. This is what I'm under the assumption, so let's keep that there too. That unless the clerk deputizes you as a deputy ex officio, there's one ex officio for the county commissioners, and that's the clerk. So that's my understanding. That doesn't mean that that's something that's written in stone. That's just something I want everybody to understand. That's my understanding, okay? So that was one of my issues.
Okay, let's
But
have-
no, I have the floor and I'm going to finish. So with that, in this last year, when there has been concerns of me putting stuff on the agenda, right, wrong, or indifferent, if I'm wrong about putting something on the agenda, I want that to come from the district attorney. I don't want that to come from another commissioner. The district attorney, I feel, has all the authority to go, ooh, yeah, no, you shouldn't do that. And I respect that 150%. However, I don't want another commissioner jumping on me and saying, you will not do this, when none of us have any more authority than anyone else. And I also think when that happens like that, it puts Keith in the middle of, what am I supposed to do? I got these different commissioners, and then he's trying to figure out who he's supposed to listen to on putting the, and I don't think that's fair, truly. And him and I had this discussion this week. He asked me, and that's the exact same conversation you and I had, right? I think that when you're polled 3 or 5 different ways on different things, that the district attorney, I believe, is the one that should contact us and go, this is why I don't think that this is a good idea. I do not want to be told flat out by another county commissioner what I can and can't do, because just like it's been said before, neither one of us have the power, or like the man on the moon, no more business than the man on the moon telling the other one what to do. I want the RDA to tell me what I'm doing wrong, okay? So I find that a big issue, all right? And so nobody knows who's right when it comes to this, like, and it sticks you right in the middle, and nobody knows who's right. So we just keep going and going, and people get angry and mad. I want an answer. And I want the right answer that says, is the clerk the ex officio, and is she the one that should be doing the agenda? So that was one of my,
Can we get a legal opinion on your first one?
absolutely, I want a legal.
Ted?
Let me finish first, and then you
I
can.
just asked you if
I
it
know,
was okay to get an opinion
we're
on
gonna
your
get,
first
let
one.
me finish, and we're gonna get that legal opinion, but let me finish. You asked for my list, and let me on my roll, and then we'll go back to that one.
Let's go.
All right, so, one of the other things was when, that prior to this administration, once again, I don't believe this has directly anything to do with you, this is the power of changing. We had a finance director, and I know you can answer, so I called around to the several different counties. I called like 10 different counties to find out how this works. And some of them do it like you have, but they have like 2 or 3 different people in line for doing the finance stuff. They either have a financial director that reports directly to the commission, or they still have the auditor recorder that's in the auditor recorder's office, or they have a CEO. And once again, this has nothing to do with the people that are in these positions. I just want to know what the right way for a county is, because I don't understand how it went from having, and just give me 1 second and you totally answer, how it went, and I know, but you absolutely have, how it went from a financial director to a fiscal officer, and so, now go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to correct you. It's not a CEO that they have. Elko
It's a
is.
CFO.
It's a
Oh,
CFO. It's the
excuse me.
chief
You're right.
financial officer. So, and this is an easy one, and you don't even need a legal opinion on it. It's right in our code. Lander County, since the creation of the code, which hasn't been referenced in a while, Lander County has never had a finance director. In our county code, it was a fiscal officer. It always has been, and goes back to the creation
So
of the
when
code.
Rogine was in there, and mind you, this is where I'm going off of,
I
because that's my
understand
mindset, so
Yes.
keep that in mind.
Mhm.
So when Rogine was in there, she reported directly to the commissioner. She was a financial officer too, she wasn't
She was a fiscal officer, according to our code, according to the Lander County code.
When Ray Fagg was in there and she was the auditor recorder, she was in the auditor recorder's office, so then when did that See, that's where it gets changed, and I'm going, so why over these years, and it doesn't have just to do with you, and I wanna
Right.
make sure that these positions are getting changed, and why are they getting changed?
So in the last commission with the district attorney, and Ted, you jump in if I'm getting off track, but it was very clear that we would start to follow the code. And Art, you were there, and Patsy, it was very clear we were gonna follow the code, strictly follow the code. So when we talked about a finance director and a fiscal officer, the code stated fiscal officer. At the same time, that's when we discussed changing the executive director to the county manager. The position changed, didn't change any of the job duties, it just changed the title. So it's very clear in the code what the position titles are, in our county code.
So when so what year was the county code done, and how long were we doing it wrong before that?
If I remember correctly, and I can go grab the
No,
code
no,
real quick,
I mean,
but
you go
it
shoot
was-
off the hip, it's fine.
I believe it was in the nineties, in the late nineties,
Okay.
maybe, I wanna say 1998. And it had, nothing had been updated until, I think, last year
Okay.
in our county code. And like I said, I've got a copy.
And
of
it's
my
all right, I
office.
mean, it's easy enough to find. So, I mean, those were, a couple of my big, my big issues, and like I said, when, you have county commissioners telling each other what they can and can't put on agendas and things like that, like I said, and then you have, which works fine if everybody's in agreement with the county manager, but when you have everybody putting the county manager in the middle and he doesn't know, if it's supposed to be up in the clerk's office, cause she's the ex officio, then that's where it needs to be, and if the code was changed, the NRS hasn't. The NRS says, so make me understand why we can jump over and supersede an NRS, and but things like that are black and white for me. The NRS says this, and our county code says something different, so that's where.
I have a
Ted, can you
comment
meet
when
me
you're
on
done.
that? So go ahead, Ted,
Okay.
please.
I think it was
Brian.
That was
Or Brian, go ahead, Brian.
Well, the point is, this is exactly what the assessment will pan out, are these questions.
Can I speak now?
Absolutely, go ahead.
So, I support it 100%. It's not digging at anyone in particular, and it's getting an outside source that is going to come in with a different perspective. And we need that, we need someone else to come in and tell us, you're doing this right, you're doing this wrong, this is how you need to do it. And can I make a motion now? I would like to make a motion.
I have not gotten all my information.
Well,
I
I'm
have
still
not
speaking.
asked all my questions.
You know what, Art, is I can make a
Wait,
motion and then you can continue.
Okay,
I
so,
am not done.
all right, and that's fine, and you will be able to speak your piece. He
I-
has something to say, give me 1 second.
I
please.
just wanted to pipe in because it was, in the code that the fiscal officer did report directly to the commission. It says that. The job description for the fiscal officer in the code is less than a paragraph. It's pretty small. But that position did report directly to the commission, okay? When we went through the changes and we actually recognized it as a fiscal officer and the HR, was to report directly to the county manager. That was at the recommendation, a strong recommendation of Pool Pack, that we set up our county structure that way. So that was 2 years ago, I think, or 3 years ago, was when we made those changes to come in compliance with our PACT carrier, our insurance carrier,
So I
with
think-
what they recommend.
I think a lot of these questions, concerns, comments, issues will be addressed by this. And so I will continue with my motion that we approve an increase to operations by $40,000 to have an enterprise risk assessment done within the administration department, and have our chairwoman Kathy Ancho be the contact front person for that.
So, go ahead, Art, 'cause-
Are you gonna answer my
I'll
question?
second the motion.
Okay, I want it on the record, Art Clark has been prohibited by certain commissioners from getting answers to his questions on the use of $40,000 for an enterprise risk assessment. And I
So-
will take care of this outside the commission.
Madam Chair?
I think. What does that mean?
Let's hang on one second, Brian, I wanna have Patsy say what she has
Yeah,
to
a
say.
clarification on the motion. The motion was not for the 40,000 for enterprise, was it? It was just
I
that we
read-
do an assessment.
So we can do an assessment, we don't have to use that company.
I read the motion as it's stated on the agenda, to increase operations by 40,000 to have an enterprise risk assessment done within the administration department, and to have Kathy as the point person.
And so, Brian, didn't you second?
Yes, I second the motion.
Okay, so, we're gonna do public comment. All right.
Commissioners, did you want me to answer your questions, your
Yes,
legal questions?
Yes, please do.
Please, Ted, my first question is, what's wrong with the agendas the way we're doing them now?
The agenda, the ordinance states that the county manager is in charge of the agenda. I've recommended to the board that a procedure should be put in place on who's there for the agendas and who makes the decisions. And that's in my opinion, that's all that needs to be done on the agendas. Keith is an ex officio as well as the clerk. As far as the fiscal officer is concerned, we've never had a finance director by ordinance. We've had a fiscal officer. The finance director took it upon themselves years ago to call themselves the finance director. When the county commissioner 5 years ago decided to follow the ordinances, one of the first changes that were made was that the fiscal officer would assume the responsibility as outlined in the ordinance rather than those as outlined by themselves.
Okay, so question, Ted, do you remember when it went from changing it, now it obviously must have been in the ordinance, changing it from, the auditor recorder to then going to a finance director? Do you know when all of that took place?
To a fiscal officer,
Yeah, when
No,
when it changed from auditor recorders, when it was in the recorder's office, to, then going to a fiscal officer, do you remember when all of that took place?
no, you'd have to look in the ordinance under fiscal officer and
Okay.
see when that was adopted.
You know, I
But
can remember when they did that. So it's gotta be at least 20 years ago, at least, or maybe more. Because there was a lot of heyday about why we did it and if we should go back for some time. So I know, I agree with our county manager, way back in the 90s.
So now, once again, on the ex officio, so, make me, and I'm not saying this sarcastically when I say this, I'm saying, make me understand where in the NRS that it says that the county clerk is the ex officio, and I can find nowhere in the NRS where it says the county manager is for that. I'm not seeing that. Does that, and that's, or was that, and you guys, the ordinance was changed, and it's different from what the NRS says?
the NRS does not prohibit the county manager from being an ex officio. Our ordinance makes him an ex officio, and we're authorized to do that. NRS makes the clerk an ex officio in all counties. Now, it doesn't preclude them from adopting an ordinance making the county manager an ex officio, as Lander County has done.
Okay, all right, thank you. So,
The last thing I want to say about this is that I truly believe this is a continuation of harassment towards the administrative people. It's very sad. And if need be, I will be the employee's witness.
so Ted, how do we go about that?
Kathy, can we just
What do you mean?
deal with it later?
Yeah, Art can make that statement on the record.
Okay, all right.
I
So-
mean,
All right. So did
he's
we?
just making a record, Kathy.
Okay, very good. All right, that's perfectly fine. So we're going with, we had a second. So did we already do a public comment? No, can we do a public comment, please? All right, so any public comment? All right, well, nothing.
Muted. Unmuted.
So, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Brian votes aye.
I'm opposed.
Okay, very good. All right, moving on. So for, general fund government expenses for possible action, there's, no changes in operations. All right,
I'll make a motion to approve the general fund governmental expenses, as presented, no changes to operations.
all right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, so do we have any public comment? Ready? Any public comment? With none being heard, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Brian votes aye.
All right,
Muted. Unmuted.
all right. So, number 5, for LEDA possible action, there is an increase of operations by $10,000.
Why is this needed?
I just asked. Kyla's supposed to be on her way in, so she can explain it to you. If you'd like to
Do you
skip
wanna
it, Commissioner.
go?
We'll-
I agree with Art. I'd like to know what is needed. It's the Lander Economic Development Authority. This whole thing with this COVID happening, I don't understand why we need an increase in this fund.
Let's take a break.
All right, can we go ahead and take a 10-minute break, please?
I don't see an increase.
I don't.
Muted.
I don't know, that's why I asked Kyla.
Go back into order. So one thing I would like to do, a question was brought up back on number 3. There isn't, I know how the motion went, it might have to be changed, I don't know, but there isn't any reason for a commissioner to be over this assessment. This REST assessment is a project all on its own, and it can be done like any other thing that they do in an office. So in the Keith's office, county manager's office, I do not want, nor do I need to be a head point or information. I would like it preferably that it's done, the information is given, they do what they have to do, and I don't want to be any part of being a head point of that. So, cause I don't want them pointing the fingers that I was trying to do something wrong. So it can be done out of that office, and the firm can deal with that, with his department. And then I would like the results to come back to the commission, that none of us have anything to do with it. Let it, run its course, and it be brought back in front of us.
Yeah, I agree, Kathy. I think it's something that our county manager should handle, not a commissioner.
Absolutely, I agree, so,
All
From
right.
a legal perspective, I agree also.
okay, so.
So I'll make a motion that,
Just, excuse me,
Whoa.
just a point of service here. Doesn't she have to open up number 3 again?
Well, that's what I'm going,
And
yeah.
read it in
So,
first?
yeah, so I'm gonna, I was getting there, but I wanted Ted to, that was my next thing, I wanted to get Ted's legal opinion on that. So I'd like to open up number 3, and do I need to read the whole thing back in again? Okay, so, for possible action, I'm sorry, am I the right one? Yeah, so number 3, there is an increase to the operations by $40,000 to have an, enterprise risk assessment done within the administration department.
So
So basically, we had a motion from Judy and then a second by me. The only thing that needs to change is the verbiage that you're making your chairperson as your point person. That needs to be taken out, and
Yes.
then the motion would stand.
Yes.
Okay, I will do that then. I'm not sure if I totally agree, because I do think it needs to be handled a little bit differently, but I will make the motion that there be an increase to operations by $40,000 to have an enterprise risk assessment done within the administration department.
I'll second.
I don't know if, is this the company, the Enterprise Risk Assessment? Is that the company name?
I think that's just the name of the, let me look here.
No. Do we need to make it a motion that we?
That is not the company name.
No, it goes under Mark, and then the last name is spelled as the STERANKA. He's a partner with Moss Adams on Business Consulting Services.
Okay, I would like to add to that motion that the firm chosen be brought before the commission for approval. Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so that
then,
we will have,
I'll second.
all right.
Yeah.
So then, all in favor?
aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right,
Brian votes aye.
all right, very good. So, now we're going back to the leader one? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so for possible action for there is an increase of operations by 10,000? Aye.
Kyla Sharp, planning coordinator for the record on behalf of LIDA. I believe that's a mistake, because from our approved budget last year to this year, it's only an increase of 6. The reason we had it, low last year is because we actually didn't have the funds that we do this year to work with. We added in $1,000 for travel and train and 5,000 for professional services upon the approval of the 20,000 from the last.
So is there going to be an increase, are we increasing it by what then?
From last year?
Decreasing by six
So we're
thousand.
decreasing or, so,
No, it's increasing by
oh,
6,000.
just by 6,000?
Yeah.
1,000 for travel and 6,000 for dues.
No, for,
Or, sorry, professional services.
5,000. 5,000 for professional services and 1,000 for travel, reduces it from the 45,000 this year to the new fiscal year of 39,000. I'll make a motion, we approve the lead budget.
No,
Wait,
no,
wait, wait,
no.
wait.
Huh?
Wait one second,
It's
we got a little bit
because
of
the
confusion.
numbers are misfigured on the paper.
Okay, go ahead.
Lake and Sullivan for the record. So your guys' backup is a little misleading. The one that Kyla submitted is for the full 45,000. I'm not sure why the 45,000 was crossed out and 39 was written in, but she is asking for the full 45,000, which is an increase of 6,000, not 10.
Okay,
I have something to say.
all right.
Wait a minute, now I'm confused. Why is she asking for more if it says 39?
1 second, Brian, please. So what did we approve in the last meeting?
So last year's budget, you guys approved 39,000. She's asking for 45,000 this year. Patsy, this is her original.
Like, and she's asking
This is
what
the one I have.
last meeting.
Our last meet, what did we approve for Lita?
You didn't. Lita's budget was not on the last budget agenda.
I thought that it was.
No, just our
This
request.
is
Oh,
not
okay.
correct. If you
All right.
add those numbers, it's not 45.
Right, that,
It's
go to the total
39.
on the other side.
Add them up.
It is 39.
That's why I crossed it out, Kyla.
Right. This is the total.
So this one should be, so you're saying that this was your budget from 1920 and this is what you're
Yeah.
asking?
Like they're backwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, so she was showing that her budget from 1920 was the 39 and she's asking for 45 this year.
I'll make a motion, we approve Lita for the same 39,000.
Okay,
I'll second.
do we have any discussion? Brian, did you have a question?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, so then, public comment, please. All right, do we have any public comment? All right, so we have a first and second.
Muted.
All-
Unmuted.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Brian votes aye.
Okay, thank you. So, number 6, Austin Capital Acquisitions for possible action. There is a decrease of minor equipment by 9,000.
I'll make a motion, we approve the Austin Capital Acquisition as presented with a decrease in minor equipment by $9,000.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, public comment, Robert? Do any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. All right, going on to number 7, Town of Austin for possible action, there's no changes in the operations.
I'll make a motion, we approve the town of Austin.
I'll second.
No changes to operations.
You'll second. Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 So moving on to 8, Mount Lewis for possible action. There is a decrease to operations by $16,372.
I'll make a motion that we approve Mount Lewis as presented with a decrease in operations to $16,372.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All right, public comment, all right. Any public comment? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
very good. Number 9, Town of Battle Mountain, for the possible action, there is an increase to operations by $75,000.
Lakin Sullivan
Lakin.
for the record. Oh, sorry. Lakin Sullivan for the record. This is for our mosquito control. We didn't have enough in the budget this year for that, so we're asking for an increase.
For what, I'm sorry?
What control?
Mosquito control.
Oh, mosquito abatement, okay.
I have a question. Do we need to do a new contract for Robin on this?
And we're working on that with Robin at this time to get one before you. And yeah, I think everybody was pretty well aware that we went over. That's part of another part of the puzzle for my professional services budget being over budget is because of the mosquito control issues last year, as well as spraying in the south.
I was
which-
just gonna say, so that's the whole county, actually, it isn't just Battle Mountain.
Yes, that is correct. It is the whole county, and traditionally, there hasn't been a lot of, spraying in the southern part of the county, but in the last 2 years.
We had the West Nile
we had the
virus.
yes, so I increased the spraying, in the south as well as in the north to, instead of once a week, at times Robin was coming twice a week. And I know somewhere in a discussion, I think somebody thought that the state funds that mosquito abatement. This is 100% funded by the county.
I think where that came from was from me.
Oh,
Because
okay.
when
I couldn't
was-
remember.
Yeah, so to
Yeah.
clarify that, where that was coming from, when I was talking to Pete Vocaccia, one of the comments he
Yes.
said, just, he threw out there, just, so you guys might have to fund your own mosquito abatement, so that's where
Right.
that rolled from.
And
So,
as long as I can remember, or as I've been in here since 2012, we've always funded our own.
do they fund the, Mormon crickets, or do we fund the Mormon crickets?
No, and we fund the Mormon
Okay,
cricket
very good.
abatement as well.
Okay, all right.
Department of Ag will do some, but
And
it's,
maybe that's where the.
traditionally, it
confusion
hasn't been enough, so that's why we have a lot of bait.
came.
Is it my understanding Department of Ag does mostly their aerial though, do they not?
That is correct. They do mostly aerial, and they do it early in when they're babies, because the bait does not have the same effect on the babies as it does with the adults. It has been working. Have you guys been getting any feedback on Mormon crickets? It's kind of settled down since they started baiting. At least my phone has.
Some of the areas, where it was in Austin, they have baited and they have disappeared.
Okay.
They've been at different areas along the highway, and, even those have been cutting down now, I see, so, but they pop up in new places.
Yes.
So where are the crickets funded?
I've been paying the crickets out of either the Battle Mountain or Austin town funds or my professional services because we got 4 pallets in last week or the week before, and that was close to $16,000 for 4 pallets.
Okay, so my question is, can we lump it under the mosquito control? And put mosquito, insects or something?
The thing with doing it that way is Robin's contract is very specific to mosquito control, and this is to fund Robin's contract.
Okay.
75. I can put it
Do you
on.
want us to put crickets on there and raise it again?
Well, why don't you, I can bring it back so it's agendized.
You don't have to bring it back, do we?
Well, I think that because it's a
It's only going up 75, that's why.
Oh, Patsy, it's done that way because it's a contract where the crickets aren't a contract, we buy the pellets, correct?
Right, that is
So
correct.
it's-
We buy the
Right,
pallets and then our
but I'm
road crews.
saying, yeah, the way we've written it, okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the Battle Mountain, Town Fund, with an increase of $75,000, brings it to $445,900.
Second.
Any public comment? Good. All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Brian votes aye.
But I'm wondering if maybe, that we should put on there and bring it back for the final, and we can vote on that then, of like an additional 25,000 for crickets, because we don't need it every year. But
Right,
when we do need it, it should be accounted for under crickets,
okay.
or insects, or whatever.
Okay.
So we'll do that in the final.
All right, moving on to number, what?
I'll bring that up.
Do I, am I ready to go, or you got something?
I just,
Put it in parks.
I was just talking with, Lake and Liz here.
Put it in parks.
I think we'll need to put it somewhere. We want to bring the budget to you Thursday, ready to go, ready for signature. So, instead of bringing anything back, we'll look at it, maybe in the, what'd you say, in the parks, maybe? Something along those lines, or we can put it in.
Oh, okay.
Just so that we
Adding
can
that.
have all the paperwork ready for
Okay.
Thursday, so it's
Agreed.
smooth.
Does it come out of Bert's budget?
No, not that, it came out of mine, or Battle Mountain and Austin Town budgets is where it came out of.
Then, okay.
But it only says 75, can they increase it there?
Okay, I've been informed if you would like to increase that amount in there, we can separate it out, for, specifically for crickets. If you'd like to increase it to 100,000.
So my question is though, it's kind of specific on the agenda of the $75,000.
Yeah, but it's as Ted, it's a budgetary issue. They have rights to change that, correct, in a budget?
That's correct.
And we're just adding something, because it's
You're
gonna be,
just
it's in the budget
increasing it.
anyway, it's just,
Yes.
we're just putting it up here so they're both together, correct?
Yeah, so if
You just changed one two numbers ago from 10 to 6.
So if I could say a request that you do 75,000, or 100,000, I'm sorry, and then we can, to the Battle Mountain Town, and then we can separate out the 25,000 to cricket.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, we've already approved the 75,000, so can I just do a second motion? That we add an additional $25,000 for crickets onto the town of Battle Mountain?
Second.
All right,
And it'll be,
any public comment? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Brian votes aye.
All right, very good. Are we good to go? All right. So, number 11, Battle Mountain capital acquisitions for possible action. There is a decrease to operations by 10,000, and there, that's A. And number B, there is a decrease to capital outlay by 20,000.
I'm sorry.
Question,
we're
are
on-
we-
We're on number
We
10.
have fixed assets
I
of
missed 10.
500,000 for,
Hang on a second, I jumped over, so give me a second, I gotta go backwards. Thank you, guys. So we're going back to number 10, for capital acquisitions for possible action. There's no change to operations.
I'll make a motion, we
So-
approve.
Hang on,
I have a question.
go ahead.
Under fixed assets, the 500,000 for the food storage building, that is what we approved for that?
Yes. Are we okay to go on? Or do you have another question, Brian?
No, no question. Just not in favor of the 500,000 for a
Okay.
food storage building.
Okay. So do we have a motion for,
I'll make a motion, we approve capital acquisitions as presented with no changes to operations.
okay, do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Ryan votes nay.
okay.
Can I make a comment on that? So Brian's talking about we approved the 500,000 for the walk-in. And I know a lot of people have commented on it and are really concerned and whatnot. Is the thing about it, without really going out to bid and finding out how much this is really gonna cost, you know, it sounds like an awful lot of money, but I'm sure we all understand it's not gonna be anywhere near that $500,000. But we do have it in the budget for whatever. I mean, we weren't sure if it was gonna be 100,000, 200. I'd rather see, you know, we can put it in the budget to cover it. And just because we have that much doesn't mean we have to spend it.
Oh, no, absolutely. Which
My
is-
question, is this a county facility if we build this building, or is this and then that's run by an outside organization?
No, Brian, because I've had those questions too. My phone blew up after that. So, and like I said, this was just the beginning of trying to figure out how this would work. And I had spoken to Keith, and I think that about this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, that this would have to be something that was handled by the county. And this is the very beginning of trying to figure out how something like this would work. So we could not like have another organization run it because they're not the ones who came forward and asked for the money. And that was one of the concerns from the public is why are we just randomly giving the public this money? And it would have to be a program. This program would have to be ran by the county. And there's a lot of counties throughout the United States that have these type of programs because the big issue here, we have the haves and we have the have-nots. And so that's what this was formed out of. So but we're gonna have to do some research and figure out how all that happens and how the other counties and the other states do stuff like this. So that's kind of where we're at.
So Brian, the other thing about it is, because it's just, we're funding the idea, is now that we have the money, going into the research part of it to find out just exactly the feasibility of it is how everything is gonna work.
Yeah, we're spending $500,000 for a food storage building to study to see how much it's actually going to cost, but then we only give $100,000 to do the study for our civic center that the majority of our people enjoy in Lander County, and our fire department, our volunteer fire department, is $100,000. I don't know. I think it's. I'm just definitely not. I'm in opposition of it. Just I don't want that to be known. So
Brian, and I understand 100% because last year when it was dropped down to $100,000 for the fire departments, and to me, I thought, you know, we should have some more seed money for that, but it's not saying we're going to spend the $500,000. And I think that's the other thing is if it comes back that it's just not feasible, we're not going to spend it. But yeah, you're right. You know, $500,000 for food storage when we only have $100,000 for fire departments and civic center.
Are we good? Are we good to move on to the next one? Or do we have any more comment? Brian, do you have anything more?
no.
Okay. So, going on, did we get as far as 11? Okay, make sure that I'm not jumping anything. So for Battle Mountain capital acquisitions, for possible actions, A, there is a decrease of operations by 10,000, and B, there is a decrease of capital outlay by 20.
I guess my question is, our fixed assets actually reduced 20,000. What is it? Did we sell something or lose something or destroy something? Or?
Valid question.
It looks like that we just didn't use the full money, so the budget was decreased to reflect not using it last year. But we can look into it a little further, and we can get back to you with an answer, a solid answer.
I can't believe our repair and maintenance would be reduced 10,000 with all the things that need repairing.
If we could table that for a few minutes, I'll have
Okay,
Leighton
yeah.
go figure it out. Okay,
We'll table
thanks.
it. All right, so are we all right to move on to parks? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on to 12 parks, capital outlay requests. A, Austin Rodeo Grounds announcer concession stand in the amount of $28,393. B, replacement of the dugout, backstop, and fencing at the Battle Mountain Adult Softball Field in the amount not to exceed $50,000 per field.
So I have a question, if, Kim, who is heading up our Austin Rodeo Grounds, is on the phone?
Kim?
When she came to us and she said they're trying to revamp everything and get that going again and doing their 501c3 and all, and we did actually approve in the budget so far for them to do the corrals. They did need that. But there's a lot that needs a lot of work, and one of them is the concession stand, but I don't know whether I wanna jump right into a brand-new concession stand right off the bat. I'd like to see them get going and get started before.
So this was on the original budget, and because it was requested by an individual that wanted to take the fairgrounds over, but they did not have the 501c3 that's required, it was discussed, or I was directed to move it.
Right,
out of
because
that.
it's our county
Because
facility.
yeah, it's a county facility.
Right, no, I understand
Yes,
that, but I'm
okay.
saying, I don't know whether I'm in favor of just spending, $30,000 on a concession stand when nothing's been going on down there for a long time. Whether we wanna put it in the budget and hold it, but if we approve it in the budget, it just might go ahead and be done, and I think we're
Well, and
jumping
so,
the
yeah,
gun.
that's a good point. Go ahead. You have something?
I'm speaking on behalf of the Public Works Director, and he wasn't in favor of this at this time. I think, like you said, there were some other things that needed to be fixed at the Austin rodeo grounds. Yes.
So, I have a question. I believe, was it 2 years ago? 2 or 3, hard to remember. The budget was increased on the Battle Mountain Livestock Event Center, like $20,000.
Yes,
And that should have been a grant, because it was to go to a rodeo, but it was put in a line item. So as it sits now, the Battle Mountain Livestock Event Center has a line item for $27,500. Is there any way that we could utilize some of that for the Austin rodeo grounds?
I'm not sure what, I know that we've discussed different types of improvement at the Battle Mountain rodeo grounds. So I don't, we haven't decided on a final, project to proceed with. So I can't answer that because we haven't decided what project to proceed with.
And I'm sorry,
I was just gonna say, if you wanted to put that money into a line item for the Austin rodeo grounds, we could make a line item for the Austin rodeo grounds and put that in there. That way it's not specific to an announcer's booth. It would be repairs, upgrades to the rodeo grounds.
Well, and like I said, prior to this rodeo that the county decided to put on, that $20,000 should have been a grant. It should not have increased the line item for the Livestock Event Center. And it's just been carried over. So that money, typically is a large amount more than what they were used to having.
Except like Patsy said, there's nothing going on at that rodeo ground right now, and I think that you're just throwing money after nothing. And it's one thing that's up in our rodeo grounds, we have events that are going on here. Right now, there's nothing going on, and I would have to agree with Bert, if we have nothing going on, there's no reason to spend all the money to do the upgrades and then let it sit and rot until something's done. Is that?
Yes, so the individual that's wanting to get the roping club started again at the rodeo grounds, they have to get their 501c3 before they can proceed with anything. And that's the holdup with them now. They're in the process of doing it. They just have not received it. Back to what you're talking about, Commissioner Allen, that goes back several years. I want to say about 4 years ago when there was a Battle Mountain livestock group, and they had a rodeo. And we gave them the 27,000. Yes, it was for the prizes. It was the prizes and the stock, the roping calves. That's how that line item started, and then.
Okay, anyway, I'm not gonna argue with you over that. I guess one of my suggestions would be is creating a separate line item for the Austin Rodeo Grounds and just redistributing some of that 27,500 that's already in the Battle Mountain Livestock Event Center is however you wanna come up with a ratio of putting some money into a separate fund for the Austin Rodeo Grounds that can be managed by Public Works. And it doesn't have to be spent. We can wait and see if this 501c3 comes, but.
Judy, in response to your first concern, I would hate to set any kind of a precedent taking money from Battle Mountain to Austin with the same like thing. The same way I don't want to see taking money from Austin and putting it to Battle Mountain for some like thing. So if you want to do something with the 27, I say just keep it completely out of the dialogue. But for right now, I'm really not in favor, not only the COVID-19, but because they're just not ready for us to put this kind of money in. I mean, $30,000 to a concession stand that may sit there for 2 or 3 years. I think when they're up and viable and going, we have another budget next year. And if we've got the corrals for them, that is needed, and we'll finish up with that. But I just think we ought to just leave that and make sure that everything's a go the way we want it. Otherwise, it will just sit there and deteriorate again. So I'm not even in favor of a line item on that.
At this point, I have to feel the same until they're up and going, and have their organizational ready to go. I hate to see putting any money in that if they just change their mind and decide not to go ahead with this, then we've invested all that money into a project and it just sits there. So I'd rather see them up and going before we do that. So.
All right, so the replacement of the dugout backstops and fencing, I'm really not in favor of that either.
Go ahead, please.
If we could call in on Reed DeVries with Battle Mountain Little League, I will give you his number. Oh, do you want to do it?
I thought we just fixed this last year. Didn't we do the improvement on this last year?
Infield, I think, no dugouts.
That was the other one.
Was the other one?
Muted. Unmuted.
Well, I think one of the things is we got, another $100,000 for a sports complex. And now we're gonna put 50,000 into each field, possibly up to 50, and then turn around and decide to.
We're on break, right?
No,
Oh, I
Hello?
thought you just called a break.
I didn't say anything. You were wishful thinking.
He's on the phone.
And his first name is what? Reed, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, very good. So can you go ahead and do a little background on this for us, please?
Okay, so those fields by the golf course, Little League uses those. And the dugouts were never completed back when they built it, and now what was completed on them is failing. And I'm asking that the county bring in a contractor to replace those dugouts. And the infield fencing is also starting to fail. And I'm asking that all gets replaced as well. At the very least, we'd like to get at least one field done this year. If there's enough money, I'd like to do both. But I'm not an estimator or a fencing contractor, so I don't know what you're going to get back for an exact price on those bids. But I'm willing to help show you guys everything that needs done over there, wherever I can help, within the capacity of a volunteer, of course. I know it's sounds like a lot of money to put forward, but those fields get a lot of use.
and they're in pretty tough shape.
So do you have an opinion, Keith?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you have an opinion?
Yeah, so I've had a discussion with Reed, and I also discussed this with Bert Ramus. We feel they are needed. Bert has said he would do all the demolition, so that'll save on the costs. And then they will have to have a contractor actually come in and do the dugouts and the fencing. It needs to be done. I mean, it's a safety issue, and kids use it, and so does, I believe, the adult softball league uses it as well. And the reason it's at 50,000 is there's some variables in there. And of course, if we don't have to spend it, we're not gonna spend that much money. We'll get the best price we can, probably through Artistic Fence is what we'll look at. They do all of our work.
Now might be a good time to get it going since, you know, we're in lockdown or whatever it is.
Well, the thing is, Commissioner, we can't spend this money until July 1st. So
Yeah.
this will be a July 1st project, but we can be ready to start on it. Bert can still go in and demo it, and we can be ready for somebody to come in and start July 1st.
So I'm not opposed to this, because if it's necessary and they are actually being used, it's just spending the money, and if we do decide to go in the future with a sports complex, is, you know, you're paying for something twice.
Well, no, actually, you're doing this now, and that's less money you're gonna spend.
If you incorporate those fields with the sports complex, which was not the original plan. And that's great if you could do that, to incorporate these, which really is a better idea. So yeah, I'm not opposed to this, it's just, like I said, are we gonna pay for something twice?
Well, I don't think that we're.
That's a big if.
Yeah, and I understand that. I think that needs to be, I get a lot of complaints from little kids' parents out there. So, and I've gone out there and I've looked, and there are fields, and we need to maintain them, and maybe if we have a different way of maintaining them in the future, we invest so much every year into maintaining them, then we don't have such a huge chunk at one time, but I know they are ours, they're our responsibility, and they need to be fixed.
We cannot use these as fields if we went on with that sports project, because those fields would have artificial turf and they would have a lot of different things. If we're gonna do this, then the sports complex, in my mind, as far as baseball fields go, is a moot point. If we're gonna fix these fields up and make them nice, let's make them nice and keep them that way so that we don't need a new facility.
I agree with Art.
I do too. I do.
Okay, so the reason the sports complex came to life is I got, and I think a lot of the officials got concerns or complaints that somebody would have a child at one field and they'd have to run to another field. That was why the sports complex was talked about and came to life and put in one place, so that everything could be handled in one place.
And the water savings. The water
Yes.
savings, if we did the sports complex, would allow us for a lot more homes to be built. That's one of the reasons I thought it was a good idea, but I'm gonna make a motion on Part B. Replacement of dugout backstops and fencing at the Battle Mountain adult softball fields in the amount not to exceed $50,000 per field. And I'd also ask that there's water available, drinking water. And these-
I'll second the motion, and also point out that we have 100,000 in that other sports complex account, that if needed, we can draw from that to make sure that this field is done properly and nice.
Brian, I want them done nice. I want them to look good so that we can draw people here. So that's my motion.
All right, so did you second that, Brian? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Public
Yes, I seconded his
All right,
motion.
all right, public comment?
Do you have any?
Do you have any public comment? Judy, you have something to say?
I think this is great to do this, and I understand consolidating all the fields and whatnot, but before, one of my concerns with the sports complex and where it was located, those fields were built and supported by a local loved resident. You know, they are the Jim Stewart Memorial Fields. And we need to maintain that for the community and the people and his legacy. And so if we can keep those fields and put the money into them to make them better, I think that's great.
Okay, so we have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Good work there, Reed. Thank you very much
you
for your
very much.
time.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so we're gonna, move on to 13. Net proceeds of minerals future, reserve fund for possible action to allocate additional funding into the 200 MPM, also known as a rainy day fund.
So the reason this was put on there is to increase what we have in our rainy day fund, or our 200 NPM fund, for the future of the county. I believe we put 3.5 million in last year, and I think that we should probably put a lot more in there. That money, we can't, once it's in that fund, we can't use it unless we fall below a certain percentage of our ending fund balances. So,
Keith, we put in 3.5 million last year. Is that the total in the account now, or is that just what we put in last year?
I believe that is the total. It was just started last year, and the 3.5 is the total. And I think that my recommendation is we put a lot more into it, just to protect the county in the future, for the future.
Well, I'm just going to put a number there. I had an idea that we should probably put 50 million in that account.
Are we restricted in any way with
That was
how
my
much we
question. Do we have
we
any
can put in?
restrictions?
I thought we were.
I don't know. Tom Gransberry's gonna be here today. If you wanna make a recommendation, or a vote on 50, and if it's too much, I don't think it is, but I don't know for sure.
We could make.
I think it's fine, to put it in there. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner.
Someone could make a motion up to 50 million.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question on that. Just kind of confused here. Saying it's net proceeds is we put 3.5 million in last year, is we want to bring it up to 50 possibly, is that's coming out of projected net proceeds of what year? Where's this money coming from?
So we don't do projected anymore, current?
No, I understand that, so but, we get our net proceeds and say it's $30 million.
Right.
And we sit here and say, we're gonna put this much into, the NPM fund. We've got capital projects,
Right. So, and if you say put up to 50 million in it, I'll sit down today with Lakin and Tom, and we can come to an amount that is acceptable for us to put in there, not to exceed, the maximum, and I don't think there's a maximum, but I don't know for sure. I wanna check on that. And we won't let it affect any of our current projects, and, we're not gonna draw the county short on anything. We don't wanna do that either.
Well, I think it's a good idea when you say up to, because that
Right.
pretty much covers you,
Right.
but,
Yes.
so.
So the other question is, basically this money's earmarked in an account, even though it's all into, whatever banks we're using, is any interest on this? Where does the interest go?
So Juicy puts the interest, the treasurer puts the interest, into that account, and you should get a readout of our interest, of the interest that's
Muted. Unmuted.
of the interest that's earned out of that account, either out of any of our investment accounts. So she just puts it back into the
To the fund it generated from?
yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Hey, Art, can I ask a question real quick, if you don't
Sure,
mind?
Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Keith, so what are the stipulations of when what is the actual protocol of when we can access that rainy day fund? Like, what things would determine our use of it?
I think it's 2 years. You have to run short on your budget 2 years before you can access it.
That is correct.
But one of the biggest things is the protection that we have for the county for future, because especially now with everything going on with the state, And with our legislatures, they're looking at ways to come after net proceeds. There's no question about it, and they probably will be doing something to even come back after those counties that were fortunate enough to be in the black.
So that is correct, Commissioner. It's a 2-year, percentage loss on your ending fund balances. So it does have to run for 2 years. But if our ending fund balances are falling for 2 years in a row, then we can access, then the accounts.
Well, I think it's only prudent that we protect ourselves and that we put some of that away, so.
I agree.
Can you
Just
use it for,
50?
can you use it for anything? I mean, if it came to a point to where we actually had to use it, you can use it for capital projects, or
Oh,
is
yeah,
it just
yeah.
strictly for operations?
No,
of the-
then you can use that, once you say we wanna take 20 million out or whatever, once you've reached that stipulated amount, or 2 years, you can budget it as you see fit, in the budget process, just like this.
Art, are you gonna?
Are you gonna make the motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to allocate additional funding into Fund 200 NPM, also known as the Rainy Day Fund, up to 50 million or the maximum allowed if it's higher than 50 million, and we have the money to put in there. How's
wait a
that,
minute.
I'll
Brian?
second the motion.
Okay.
Well, I'm curious about that motion, because he said up to 50 or the maximum allowed if it's over 50.
Yeah.
Did I, so it kind of contradicts it, because he says up to 50.
No, he's just saying that if we're able to put in more than 50, maybe we need to discuss putting in 75 million or something like that.
I agree, Brian. I want protection for you know why we
Okay,
need to do
so,
this.
so, did we get a second?
Brian.
Right, okay, so, any, public comment?
Just a clarification on the motion, then, I'm still a little confused. We're up to 50 million. If we can go more than 50 million, can we bring it back for discussion?
Well, that's my question. He just said, or the maximum allowed, so are you
I-
saying if they say the maximum's 150, you want us to put 150?
No, that'd just be a decision to make.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
we
yeah,
can't do that.
But see, what my question was, is he said up to, so he limited it at 50, but then he said if the max is more, up to the max.
Right.
So,
So, but we actually need a figure because we have to finish that budget.
Oh, you have to have?
So,
Just say up to
Okay.
50 million.
Okay, I'll redo my motion. My motion is to fund, additional monies into the 200 NPM, also known as the Rainy Day Fund, up to $50 million.
and a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, do we have any public comment?
Commissioner.
Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to assure the commission that I had, and I believe you did, Kathy, as well, discussions with Senator Pete Goicoechea, and we talked about the state sweeping our net proceeds. In 2009, Eureka went through this. There's a law to back this up. They took the money from Eureka County, but they had to give it back. The state took the money, but they had to give it back. So I know that's been one of my fears, and I believe it's one of the fears of this commission and probably several community members as well, is that the state would come in and do that. So there's case law that says they can't do it. Doesn't mean they won't try, but there is case law that says they cannot do that. And last year, I was under the impression that the schools lost their money. But after talking with the senator, that was a mock drill to see how it would go. They didn't take any money from the schools. Is that the way you got it, Commissioner?
Yes, and not only that, the big thing that Pete said was, the person who was pushing take the net proceeds from the school has to limit it out, and the second person that was involved in pushing it is not in there anymore, on top of it being a constitutional issue, so he does not foresee there any problem, and they're gonna have to give, the schools, the sad thing about that, the schools didn't know that they didn't have their money. They actually thought that the state came in and took it, and they didn't. So, but once again, I had a second conversation just to make sure that I heard him correctly, and he said they cannot take, it's for, now they have case law, secondly, it's a constitutional issue, so. But it's still awesome to put this money aside, you know, it can't hurt, so. We have, do we have any public comment?
No, I do have a question for Ted. Ted, we're discussing budgetary items right now. There was something I wanted to discuss on the tax roll. When would be the appropriate time to do that?
You want the tax roll?
The what, Brian?
Yes, how the funds are allocated on the tax roll.
Or the percentage that's split up?
Yes, the percentage, Ted, that's correct.
Those are.
Yeah, we'd have to agendize that separately because that's a taxation thing.
Okay, so that's not part of our budget. I know we approved that tax roll, but that's not part of this budgetary process.
No, it's a taxation process. The budget process is the execution of the taxation process. What to do with the funds that come from taxation. That's what we're talking about specifically. So we'd have to do that independently. Okay.
Are we good? All right, so without any other public comment, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 And opposed?
Brian votes aye.
Very good, moving on. So, Lander County Drug Court for possible action. A, Drug Court Master Salary, $24,500. B, Operations, $25,000. C, rollover for revenues from FY 18-19 of $17,072. And D, projected revenue rollover from FY 19-20, $17,142.
So this is the Lander County Drug Court budget that was missed on the last agenda.
Okay.
So that's why it is here. And those are the salaries and the operations and rollover of revenues that the drug court does collect, and then the projected revenue for the coming year.
And there hasn't
Hey
been.
Keith, are there any increases or decreases in these numbers?
No, they stayed the same, is that correct, Lakin? Yes, they did stay the same, that was my understanding. So,
Thank you, Keith.
you're welcome.
No, I make a motion to fund the drug court. The salary at $24,500, operations at $25,000, rollover revenues $17,072, projected revenue rollover of $17,142.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right. Do we have any public comment? Ready? All right, not hearing any. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Brian votes aye.
All right, very good, thank you. All right, number 15, informational only, water treatment plant well 6 was moved from Fund 226 to Fund 055. So,
Yes, that was discussed at the last meeting, so we made that change.
all right,
And then we need to go back to number 11 when you're ready.
okay, so, are we ready? We're gonna reopen 11 for the Battle Mountain Capital acquisitions for possible action. There is a decrease to operations by 10,000, and B, there is a decrease to capital outlay by 20,000.
Hi, Lathan Sullivan for the record. So I had to do my research on these because we don't use Fund 54, which is the Battle Mountain Capital Acquisition. I believe that's why Cindy was decreasing, because we don't spend any money out of there. They're revenue funds. And we also have our regular capital acquisition that we discussed on item 10 that has money in there for expenditures that we don't spend either. I don't know if they're just there just in case for emergencies, but we don't spend money. They're just revenue.
How long have they been not basically used? For quite a while.
I believe so. As long as I've been in finance, I've never used Fund 54 to pay a bill with. So
Okay.
I believe that's why she's decreasing them. In Fund 31, which is the regular capital acquisition fund, there is quite a bit of money in there for repair maintenance as well. So if needed, there is money available.
Okay. Thank you. So do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the Battle Mountain capital acquisitions as presented. Decrease in operations, 10,000, decrease in capital outlay by 20,000.
Okay, second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any public comment? Hearing no public comment, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right,
Brian votes aye.
very good, thank you. So public comment. For non-agendized items only, persons are invited to submit comments in writing and/or attend to make comments on any non-agendized items at the board meeting, if any, and discussions of those comments at the discretion of the board. All public comment may be limited to 3 minutes per person, again, at the discretion of the board. Reasonable restrictions may be placed on public comments based upon time, place, and manner, but public comment based on viewpoint may not be restricted. So do we have any public comment?
This is Brian. I'd like to see an agenda item possibly discussing our tax roll and how, and the money that's going to each department or account.
Okay, Commissioner Sparks, I actually had that on my list. I was gonna ask you if you wanted something on taxes. We are bound by NRS as far as how our taxes are put out there. And then it's up to the county how they distribute them throughout the different funds. So I'll have that.
Yeah,
And I'll have.
so my idea, Keith,
Uh-huh.
is, sorry, yeah, so my idea is, and Ted, correct me if I'm wrong, is just with this whole, where our net proceeds could be jeopardized, could we take a few cents from somewhere and then maybe start a fund for our local schools to where we're securing dollars for our children in our community?
I don't know if we can do it that way because the state would have access to it if we earmarked it for the local schools. But let me look into it, Brian. But off the top of my head, we couldn't do it that way. But it doesn't mean there's not a way we can get there.
Okay, thanks, Ted.
So, Commissioner, in the past, there's been some discussion on, because we're capped out right now, on reducing the cap of the taxes. But if we reduce the cap on the taxes, what happens is one of the other entities, for instance, the school district, could jump in on that, and that money would go to the school district. We can't actually reduce the taxes to the community, to property owners, but we could reduce our cap of what we take out of taxes, and the schools could increase theirs if they needed more money. There was some discussion about, and the money the school gets, what's it called?
DSA.
The DSA money, and because the kids aren't in school, and I talked with the superintendent, Russ Klein, about this, because the kids aren't in school, they're not gonna get the DSA money. However, over the last several years, it's either the DSA money, and this came right from Russ Klein, it's either the DSA money or the net proceeds, whichever is greater. So they don't lose out on money, they're actually getting more money, because we get too much in net proceeds for the schools to get the DSA. It's one or the other.
The net proceeds
That's-
far exceeds
that's
what
quite
the
correct.
DSA would give them.
Right. So, but we can talk about, or the commission can talk about reducing the cap that comes to the county, and then the school district can go in and they adjust what they get, as far as property taxes go. But we can't decrease the overall property taxes within the county. Correct, Ted? I get that right?
That's right.
Thank you.
The school's getting the money one way or the other. The state tried to intervene and scoop up some of that money, but they'll get it from the other end, just as Keith outlined.
But I'll have it on the agenda, Commissioner Sparks.
Yes, you did. Thank you, guys.
All right, so, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I did public comment already. We have a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Don't forget, Commissioners, Thursday,